Hello, beautiful people. My name is Emma.
And I'm MC.
And we are your hosts of the G Forces podcast. So today was the US Grand Prix, COTA, the Austin Grand Prix. Many names for it.
Yeah, it's, I feel like, and we said this in our last episode, it's our favorite US Grand Prix.
Yeah.
I feel like it really embodies what we like about the sport. I love a track. I feel like it's just a really great course, but then also the overall vibes and energy I feel like is very that like traditional stereotypical American energy that you expect.
Yeah.
Not to like disregard the other two races, but yeah, it just holds a special place in our heart. It was a busy weekend, a very windy weekend. That seemed to be a big factor that I feel like I don't remember last year it really affecting them as much.
I don't think it did. But overall they got pretty great weather for this time of year.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like in the past it's been like in the 90s during this weekend for them, and I think it was probably in the 80s, which is still hot for them.
Yeah, I think it was like mid 80s, which I mean it's Texas, so
that's pretty good weather for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
with some wind, the spectators were probably having a great time.
Yeah.
Normally the spectators, I feel like, are in the trenches.
Yeah, because it's a lot of open fields. I feel like a lot.
A lot of just sitting in the grass. If there's no wind, it's 95 degrees and the heat just sitting there. So,
definitely some drama. Definitely.
We're getting a little bit more action here at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, we've complained enough as the listeners, viewers,
whatever you want.
However you
consume our content.
The podcast. We've definitely been complaining. I feel like a lot of people have. It's been quite sleepy post-summer break, but I think that's expected, especially again with regulation changes. But we'll get into it. McLaren's fumbling. Red Bull is
not Red Bull, Max.
Max, yeah, because Red Bull definitely has had some mishaps this weekend.
Yeah.
But, it definitely is going to be an interesting final, I think, 5 races of the season?
Yeah, I think there's 5 left. I think next is Mexico, then Brazil, and then I don't think it's Vegas after that. I think they go to Brazil, and then they go to, like, Qatar.
And then Vegas.
And then Vegas, and then Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
That sounds correct to me.
We'll go with that. Anyways.
Honestly, I really like Mexico and Brazil.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for those. Vegas will just be Vegas.
Yeah.
And then Qatar, hopefully it won't be too toasty again. I think everyone's just traumatized from 2 years ago.
Yeah, that was definitely mind-blowing, especially for, like, our first few races. We're like, holy hell, is this normal?
Yeah. I think the title fight's going to come down to the wire.
And I think it's going to be between
three people.
And
last episode, I said I didn't think that Max had a real chance. I'm going to take that back now.
Yeah, Emma's eating her words.
Yeah. I can admit when I'm wrong. I think that the F1 commentators also said the same thing. They're like, before this weekend, we're like, no, Max doesn't really have an actual shot.
Yeah, I think Max was on the fence, but now I wouldn't be surprised if the ego is boosted.
If somehow he pulls it out of his ass. Yeah. I mean, it's not really being pulled out of his ass.
He's doing it.
Yeah. I mean, if the 5 races since summer break, he's scored like 60-something points.
Yeah.
And he's only 44 points behind Oscar or something like that. So if Oscar shits the bed, potentially in the next few races, and Max wins the rest of the races, he'll win the championship.
We'll see.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into it.
The official race name for this weekend is the Formula One MSC Cruises United States Grand Prix 2025. So we got that title sponsor up there. The track name or the location at where we're at is the Circuit of the Americas, otherwise, or Circuit of the America. Anyways, otherwise known as COTA, and it is in Austin, Texas. So that's where we're at in the United States, because the other two, Miami and Vegas, are obviously named after their locations. So the first Grand Prix with this circuit was held in 2012, and the circuit length comes out to 5.513 kilometers or 3.42 miles. So they're doing 56 laps around this track, which comes out to a race distance of 308.728 kilometers or 191.83 miles. So I didn't look it up just yet. I can look it up in between segments, but the fastest lap time record was placed in 2019 by Charles Leclerc. He did that in a Ferrari, and he did the lap in 1 minute 36.169 seconds. I honestly wasn't paying that much attention to what the fastest laps were clocking
I don't think it was.
You don't think it was?
No.
Okay. So there are 20 turns at this course, and then there are 2 DRS detection zones. So detection zone 1 is between turns 10 and 11, and activation is after turn 11. And then detection zone 2 is between turns 18 and 19, and then, as per usual, activation is after turn 20 in the start-finish straight. So that is our track info, where we're at, what's happening this weekend.
All right, let's get into practice. The one practice that there was.
Yes. So, as Emma alluded, there was only one practice session this weekend. This weekend is, I believe, the 4th sprint weekend of the season. I think we have 2 more left.
I feel like we have a bunch of sprints at the beginning of the season, and then the whole center, like, there's nothing, and then we have them now.
I think it's because of the age and the type of certain tracks.
Yeah.
You can't, I mean, the whole point of a sprint is supposed to be like, obviously, a sprint, but I think they hope for more action, and you can't really do that in Monaco or other places like that. So I think they have to wait for the wider, more passable tracks.
Yeah.
So just a few notes for practice. With the real lack of time and qualifying coming up for the sprint just a few hours after this practice session, there always seems to be a bit more caution. So the beginning of the session was fairly quiet, with a lot, as per usual, complaining about traffic. There was a quick red flag thrown because Lance Stroll went wide, getting some debris on the track, but he was able to get it back on. Carlos had his time cut into during the session when there were issues with his car. His team was pretty quick to be box right now. The F1 TV made it a pretty a big deal, so not sure how big of a deal it ended up being, but apparently there were issues with the gearbox. And then Esteban Ocon went into the gravel. Lewis went wide, but he was having a pretty good session overall, topping the charts. And then Fernando Alonso looked pretty confident, placing a top time at one point, but was quickly displaced by Lando. So seeing some people that I feel like, especially with Fernando and Lewis, that needed a bit more confidence. Obviously, it's just a practice session, so take it with a grain of salt, but I just feel like they are 2 people that really stick out in my brain that just cannot figure out their cars.
I actually was going to say, I feel like Lewis has had a bit more of a groove recently.
Yes.
The last couple of races, it seems like he's getting a lot more comfortable with the car.
I agree. Yeah.
It sucks because the car is going to completely change next season, which sucks, but also doesn't, because I feel like he definitely needs a change. But it feels like he's finally in it now. Yeah. A bit better than he was.
So the top 3 times of the practice session for the weekend was Lando in first, Nico in second, and then Oscar in third. So
Nico definitely had a bit more of a group this weekend too.
Yeah, I'm always surprised because I feel like you can see the consistency throughout weekends where he ends up doing pretty consistently well throughout every aspect. And he just grooved until he didn't.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
That wasn't his fault.
No, yeah.
Sort of.
Racing incident. But we'll get to it.
Just an incident. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Sprint quali. Yeah.
We'll do we want to do
sprint quali and sprint next?
Yeah. Jesus Christ. Sprint Quali 1, I would just, because we don't have them often, I feel like it's been a really long time. I have how long the session is, and then for the sprint qualifying, there are mandatory tires. So for Sprint Quali 1, it is a 12-minute session, and the drivers have to use a medium tire. So times deleted was a big thing this weekend due to track limits. We were really seeing it affect people throughout. I mean, really starting during this point and on. It was really felt during sprint qualifying, and one of the first people to be affected was Gabby Bortoleto. His first fast lap ended up getting deleted. Max was continuing to show a dominant fight this weekend and put the top time on the board. As we said before, he's just like the last, I feel like 4 races has really become confident in, I don't know what, but he's driving a lot better and with a lot less complaints, or at least we're seeing a lot less complaints. Red Bull and Yuki appeared to have some communication and timing problems, with Yuki voicing concern that he would not make it to the line before the session's time was up to start his final fast lap, and then this ended up proving true. And Yuki was basically screwed. So he didn't get to put in a second fast lap.
This has happened before to Yuki.
Well, it happens to his teammate later on.
Yes.
It doesn't affect him as poorly, but it happens to Max. So I don't understand why they can't figure out the timing of that, if that is a miscommunication between pitting, mechanics, strategy. Like, I don't understand why
I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like it's not happening to other teams, and it's weird for it to be happening to Red Bull.
Well, I feel like, yeah, it's quite a simple concept. Like, you know how much a typical, like, how much that, yeah. Anyways.
Continue.
So, knocked out of Sprint Quali 1 was Ollie Behrman, Franco Colapinto, Yuki Tsunoda, Esteban Ocon, and Gabby Bortoleto. So, in Sprint Quali 2, this is a 10-minute session with, again, the medium mandatory tires. And once again, Max put in the fastest time early on, but Lando was able to knock him down to second, topping the charts. Liam Lawson found himself in the drop zone and opted to only do one fast lap that session. That kind of bit him in the ass when his time for the one fast lap that he did was deleted for track limits. You can see like a constant. So that was the theme for the FIA and this weekend. Lewis was also scaring his fans being in the knockout zone, but he was able to just pull out another lap and go into 10th, moving on to Q3. So knocked out of that session was Kimi Antonelli, Isaac Hadjar, Pierre Gasly, Lance Stroll, and Liam Lawson. So moving on to that final sprint qualifying session, Q3. This is an 8-minute session, and we're switching tires, so they moved to the soft tires. Those are required. So not a lot of people go out right away, especially with the length of the session. I feel like it's not really, like, you don't have the time. It's really a one lap only.
Yeah. Well, unless you go immediately and then you honestly stay out on track.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of them want to, especially they just want to use the one set of tires and just get it done. Nico Hülkenberg pulled out quite an impressive lap, topping the charts, but was quickly displaced, but he didn't end up going far. Lando would put out a top time, bumping Nico to second. Then Oscar put in a time ahead of Nico, but behind Lando for second, moving Nico to third. And then Max came and took pole, bumping Nico down to fourth. So, while he didn't get pole, he still ended up, second row.
Yeah.
So the top 10 for the sprint qualifying, the top 10 on the grid, was Max in first, Lando in second, Oscar in third, Nico in fourth, George in fifth, Fernando in sixth, Carlos in seventh, Lewis in eighth, Alex in ninth, and Charles in 10th. So I feel like we've seen a few of these names before, some not so often. But But
it was good for Carlos and Alex.
I think it was good for Carlos and Alex. I think it was really good for Nico, and I honestly think it was good for Fernando.
Yeah.
So all confidence boosters.
Kind of wish that this had been the starting order for the main race, but it is what it is.
So, moving on to the sprint.
So this was like the most action for the week. So it's the most action for the weekend, but also this sprint race is the epitome of like you have one incident and like the whole race is behind a safety car.
Yeah. Well, and it also just shows you how much time a safety car can eat up, and then also how short the sprints are.
Again, I still am a firm believer that we should have one qualifying session on a sprint weekend, and then your finishing order of the sprint is your starting order of the main race. Personally.
Yeah.
I think that would make it a bit more interesting.
So, let's get into the sprint. The beginning corner was a mess.
Mm-hmm.
The race begins, and Max has a fairly clean getaway. As the grid moves forward and enters into turn 1, Lando was on the outside with Oscar in the middle, Nico next to him, and I believe Fernando somewhere on the other side of Nico.
Yeah, he was in the mix there.
When turning into the first corner, Oscar turned, got clipped by Nico, which forced him into Lando, forced someone into Fernando. Yeah, a lot of andos in this moment. Sorry, guys. And basically caused a whole slew of issues. Debris on the road and 3 retirements from both McLarens and Fernando in the Aston.
So, to kind of discuss a little bit further, Lando did not have a great start. Max and Oscar and Hulk and Fernando, they all had pretty great starts. Lando's was slow and a little bit sluggish to get off the line. Oscar then was trying to go on the outside maybe of Lando
Take a
into
really
turn
risky
1
move.
and then dive back into the inside, which is a move we've seen before. Just not when you're surrounded by everybody else on the grid. Because it's been successful in years past, again, but not when you're surrounded by a million other cars. I also do think, to defend Oscar, there wasn't really anywhere else for him to go other than dive back to the inside.
He was completely sandwiched. And I think...
Unless he went onto the track, like off track and just drove, in the track, the off-track area, which he could have done, but then he would have had to fall back anyways. Don't know if that would have saved people from not getting hit. I don't think it would have. I think that somehow
there were so many people
it was going to always be Nico and Fernando and a little bit of Lando getting hit somehow.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fingers being pointed at who did what. This is Oscar trying to sabotage Lando.
No.
That's what I've seen some people say. I've seen a lot of Lando fans really attacking Oscar, and I'm like, okay.
So
tensions are very high.
As the pundit said, this was a pure racing incident.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna sit there and point a finger, because it's funny, I was listening to Fast and Curious, and Christian spoke negatively about Oscar, basically was yeah, it was Oscar's fault,
I think they were bad moves from every single one of those people.
Apparently, fans just, went crazy, and he was like, I've never received hate like that before, that's crazy. So, it's definitely very strange. I feel like it's a environment and a mindset of fandoms that F1's never experienced before.
No, because people ride for their favorite.
And so this was a true racing incident. This was 4 cars going into turn 1. Like the pundit said, if anyone was listening to F1 TV, the pundits very clearly stated that this is a generous course where there are multiple race lines. And you could see that Oscar took one, Lando took another, I'm sure Nico took a different one. But if you watch the race clip, Nico goes into Oscar because there's nowhere else for any of them to go. He clips him. It's not even he goes into him, he clips him. Because of that and the way physics works, Oscar goes into Lando. We're boiling it down to science and the powers of physics, and that's it. It was a racing incident.
And it's a classic too many cars in too small of a space.
It's a
Someone's
classic
get hit.
First turn debacle, and that's it.
Yeah.
So, but it did add
I do think that there were mistakes that were made by every single one of those people that caused the crash to happen.
Yeah, without a doubt. But I also think that
So I think by putting the blame all on one person is a bit ridiculous.
No, you
because
can't.
it's a turn one racing incident, first of all, but then also like not all of those people did not have a perfect turn at all.
Well, and a racing incident, in my opinion, puts no blame on anyone. Everyone gets a free pass. It's literally just the hazards of how many cars are at the start clumped together.
Yeah.
So the safety car, back up. Lando pulled over right away, but Oscar continued for not even like 10 seconds. And when they panned to the front of his car, you could see the suspension damage to the front right tire, I believe. You could just see everything was broken. The safety car was deployed since there was debris. I honestly think I was most surprised that Hulk stayed in the race, but from the incident and all the replays they kept showing, I think that it was mostly his front wing that really took the brunt of the hit, and that was what most of the debris was. I think someone went over it. Someone went over his front wing. Yeah, Yuki Tsunoda ended up going over his front wing.
And he was somehow fine. That was insane.
After about 5 laps behind the safety car, the race was back on, and the top 3 drivers at this point were Max, George, and Carlos, seeing a massive shuffle and large jumps in standings for quite a few drivers.
Mm-hmm.
After this restart, George was able to stay on top of Max and stay within the DRS zone, which was honestly like, again, I feel like people kind of give George a lot of shit, but he is an impressive driver and can kind of stay with Max sometimes. He finally decided to make a move on Max, but this caused both of them to go off grid. Max made a comment. George wasn't able to make another passing attempt, and that was kind of it. But I feel like because that was like, they love the Max George, like, are they friends or are they not?
Yeah.
Like, they love to push that, so of course they like latched onto that. Closer to the end of the race, there was another incident when Lance had a lockup in turn 1 and basically went straight into Esteban, ending both of their runs. Lance's car was super messed up with, I think, the front right wheel again, similar to Oscar, but at this point it was at a crazy angle. Like, imagine where a tire traditionally is, now turn it so it's 90 degrees in, like, towards what you're driving. So, can't really drive it that way. He kept driving and then eventually pulled over, and I feel like Lance has done this a few times this season where he's used to, in the past, the drivers would just kind of be like, fuck it, and then just drive all the way to the pits.
Yeah, it's against the rules now.
It's against the rules now, and it honestly makes sense because it spreads quite a lot of debris, it causes a lot of issues, and it takes them.
It could mess up your car even more.
Well, and it takes them a good like 10 to 15 minutes sometimes just to clear the debris in the one spot where the car's been picked up from. So it's like, imagine dragging that a mile down the track. It makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
So he eventually pulled over. I made the joke of like Lance was just trying to get away from like Esteban's wrath. So at this point, the second safety car of the race was announced. Around this time, it was stated that Ollie was handed a 10-second time penalty. Kimi and Ollie had been in a battle earlier on in the race, and I think the issue involved running off track. I don't know if anyone gained an advantage, but that's all I could, that's all I could remember. The race finished under the safety car, which, again, like Emma said, it just kind of shows you how I get what they're trying to do with the sprints, but it's also like half of the race was under a safety car.
Yeah.
Max was able to clinch a ton of points. Obviously, both McLarens were out, and this is just furthering the rumors around the paddock that Max was basically going to cause the ultimate upset, and he's just getting closer and closer to McLaren. So, the top 8 of the sprint, the 8 that get points, was Max in first, George in second, Carlos in third, Lewis in fourth, Charles in fifth, Alex in sixth, Yuki in seventh, and Kimi in eighth. Now, Ollie did finish ahead of Kimi, but with his 10-second penalty, how quick the race was, and everything that happened to all of the safety cars, he was essentially pushed into last place. Last of like the people that finished, so 15th.
It does suck when someone gets handed like a 10-second penalty like that, and there's safety cars, so like everybody is all bunched up.
Yeah.
So you get bumped. It's not like you get bumped down like one or two places like you might during like a regular race, but you get bumped all the way back to the end. That happened to somebody else this season where it was horrible to watch.
Yeah, but
it might have been him, honestly, who it happened to, because he keeps getting handed these penalties.
Yeah, but
there has been drama between online. People are being dramatic, being like, oh gosh, Kimmy and Ollie aren't friends anymore, because there was an interview afterwards where Ollie was talking about Kimmy and didn't call him Kimmy, he called him Antonelli.
Bro, they're probably just tired.
And I'm like, y'all need to stop reading into this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
tired.
says me, I've read into it before.
Yeah.
But like, yo,
Ugh.
it's not that deep.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're gonna go hang out tomorrow.
I'm like, if people read into every nickname I called everyone, I think I would.
I know.
Yeah.
All right. Regular quali?
Yeah. So, obviously, the sprint happened. A bunch of cars have had to be repaired. They've had to have work done. There was 5 retirements from the sprint. And then
which is truly crazy, because normally in the sprint,
everyone's cautious as shit.
Yeah, people are treating it almost like a funeral procession. Like,
Yeah.
they do not want to cause an issue. But this time,
people, yeah, it was a lot crazier than we've seen in other sprints. So because of that, I feel like there was definitely a different energy, but also quali, people don't want to do stupid shit right before the race. So in Q1 for the race, this was pretty quick into the session. Unfortunately, the red flags were raised. So Isaac Hadjar ended up spinning and he hit the barriers. He ended his session really before it even started, and we were watching, and he was shown like hitting the steering wheel, hitting his helmet.
he was pissed.
A lot of emotion. You can obviously figure out how he's feeling by his body language.
He has no emotion.
Yeah. With the red flag being thrown, once the red flag was lifted and the drivers could get back onto the grid, there were 14 minutes left when the session resumed.
So it didn't really take up that much.
So I feel like you could see a little bit of how off the McLarens were in this first session, because they, especially after what happened in the sprint only a few hours earlier, because they were only able to put in times good enough for 6th and 7th, which obviously not bad, but not where we've seen them this whole season. Alex was in the drop zone and was able to pull himself out of getting knocked out, put in this great fast lap.
For 2 seconds.
But the FIA reviewed, and his time was, you guessed it, deleted due to track limits.
To be fair, it was,
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. As we were watching it, we were like, yeah.
So, I mean, one can be like, FIA, turn a blind eye, but that would be...
Who else's time was deleted? But I think they ended up getting a lap in, maybe.
I mean, other people's in, like, the sprint quali were deleted. So you
That's
make
it.
a thing.
Yeah.
So, knocked out of Q1 for the race was Gabby Bortoletto, Esteban Ocon, Lance Stroll, Alex Albon, and Isaac Hadjar. Moving on to Q2, Max has the top times yet again, with the Ferrari showing a strong performance. Lando also showed a lot more confidence in this second qualifying. Unfortunately, it seemed like Oscar was still just trying to like figure out, who knows, after hits like this, you don't know what's happened to the car. It's not exactly the same. Pierre was another victim of track limits, and he had his time deleted.
He was annoyed too.
So, knocked out of that session was Nico Hülkenberg, Liam Lawson, Yuki Tsunoda, Pierre Gasly, and Franco Colapinto. So, moving on to Q3, a pretty quick session. Charles had a full spin in one of his laps, luckily avoiding hitting anything.
Random.
Really random. Luckily, didn't really affect anything. He just went merrily rolling along. The same issue that happened to Yuki, though, appeared to happen to Max during this session in the final runs. He missed the line and wasn't able to get to his final lap. Similar to Yuki, they let him out too late. And just really, like Emma said, I mean, I think it's an interesting mistake because I feel like we haven't seen it in a little bit, and for it to happen to both
I don't think that
drivers-
we've seen it with Yuki a few times this season, but like before these incidents happening, I feel like we've never really seen it before.
Yeah, it's strange. It's confusing to me because I'm not sure how. I mean, obviously, we've never worked on a pit wall. We don't work on these teams. So, like, I'm not sure how these
They're
things are
trying to be the
determined.
last car
Yeah.
out so that they have the most optimal grid. But, like, I don't know.
Yeah, you're clearly messing
You're
up.
pushing it a little too close to the end.
Yeah. So, luckily, Max's first lap was enough to go unchallenged, and you guessed it, Max ended up getting pole position. So, the top 10 for the grid and the race is Max in first, Lando in second, Charles in third, George in fourth, Lewis in fifth, Oscar in sixth, Kimi in seventh, Ollie in eighth, Carlos in ninth, and Fernando in 10th. So, that was quali.
Yeah, definitely not Oscar's best weekend, I will say.
No, and
I think he was even saying that he wasn't feeling very comfortable in the car.
yeah, who knows if they're trying out something different, if they brought something to it, like we've said, and we've always said upgrades aren't always a positive thing, so who knows if they tweaked it and just, we're hoping for a different result.
Yeah, who knows? But, all right, we're going to get into the race now. All right, so this start, definitely not even remotely as crazy as the sprint.
No.
Nothing could be crazier than that for this weekend. There was definitely a lot going on in the race, but then also like lulls of like not a ton going on. And I do think that the F1 TV directors are definitely hearing people's complaints.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Because this time it felt like we're watching the main part of the race or whatever is going on, and then they have the little blurbs where we can see like someone's driver cam.
Yeah, they were showing a lot more of the driver cam in the timing tower if they were having a close battle or like getting close to passing. And then I don't remember seeing a girlfriend once.
There was no girlfriends this weekend that we saw at all.
Yeah.
And they were all there.
Thank God. Not that they're not, wonderful, but it's not, like, why?
It's different when they show Taylor Swift in football because football is so on and off. Like, there's so many pauses in that damn sport. There's no pauses in this.
Yeah.
Don't show me people. I don't want to see, not just girlfriends, I don't want to see people in the garages at all.
Yeah, randos.
While the race is going on. Don't even show me, like, the people just, like, the workers standing in the garage. I don't care. I want to see what's happening on the track. Anyways.
We move on.
So, off the start, Max has a great start as per usual. Charles takes the first turn wide, and he ends up passing Lando. Charles, went very wide into that first turn, but I do think that was beneficial because he was able to just scoop past Lando. Oscar ends up passing George in the first turn, and he is working to keep him behind because George was very close and just kind of up his butt. There's a lot of moments of that this whole race. Yuki is actually up to 10th now, so I can't remember where he started, but he was up, I think he was in 13th or something, and he was up to 10th, so he was already in the points, so he had a really great start as well. There was a quick yellow flag as Alex Albon drops to last place. It turns out the yellow flag had actually been for contact between Alex and Gabby. Okay. So there was a specific move that several drivers were trying to do in turn one where they're trying to pass people in turn one by just having late braking and then going in the inside of turn one. But if you're late braking and the person doesn't really see you in their mirror, they're not going to know you're braking late, and then you're going to T-bone them.
It works in some instances where,
if you're side by side with the person, I think, and they know that you're there, then I think it works.
But I think it's one of those tricks that it's a high risk, high reward.
Yeah.
So.
And there were many risks taken.
Yes.
And that's basically what Alex did to Gabby. So Alex went into the inside. Gabby was there. He ended up T-boning Gabby. Yeah, that happened. The yellow only lasted for like 2 seconds because both of them were fine and ended up continuing driving. Carlos passes Ollie at this point. This is lap 3. I think it was for like 8th or 7th place, something like that.
Something, yeah.
Okay. Yuki also passed Ollie too now, so he was up 4 places. So yeah, that was for 8th or 9th place. Charles is now okay. So Charles was one of the few people who started on softs, which was a interesting decision. But it is the reason why he was able to get ahead of Lando at the start. It was interesting hearing people talk about their tires today because we had Oscar who was complaining of his left front already like dying. And he was on mediums, but then later on in the race, he ends up getting switched to softs, which degrade a lot faster. But everybody basically switched to softs in the second half.
Yeah, I feel like the McLarens struggled with the tires this weekend a lot more than the Ferraris, which is surprising.
Yeah.
I feel like whatever the Ferraris did, they were able to hold on to their tires longer because Charles started on a soft, switched to a medium, and when Lando did the opposite, started with a medium, switched to the softs, later on, he has issues with the softs. So I just think it's interesting, especially because I think Charles had those softs on for quite a long time.
Yeah, I think it was like 31 laps.
31 laps, which
they should not be able to last that long.
Yeah, shockingly was surprised he was able to make it run and not destroy his race in the effort. So
yeah. So Lando was really up on Charles, like he was really like directly right behind him for a good while. Lando's trying to pass, but Charles is defending hard.
Starting lap 16 or 15 or 16.
I think it was before then even.
They were getting close, but then around lap 15 was when the pundits were really like, okay, now's the time that he has to do it. And he doesn't do it.
Yeah, and so much happens before now and then.
Emma at one point goes, I think it'll take him minimum 5 laps to pass. It took him 6.
Yeah, we'll get back to that when they actually
when he passes.
Kimi had an incident and was off the track. I don't really know what exactly. Oh, it was Carlos and Kimi. Yes. So Kimi, he ended up continuing on the race, but he ended up dropping back. Carlos went in on the inside of Kimi and tried to pass Kimi, so the same move that Alex did to Gabby. But Carlos just like full on hit Kimi like badly. So Carlos DNF'd after that.
Yeah, he pulled over and his race was done.
Sadly, devastating, but it happens. High risk, high reward.
Yes.
It was a high risk and a low reward this time for him.
It was.
Yeah. So the virtual safety car came out for lap 7 and ended up ending at lap 9. Oscar, this is when he started complaining about his front left tire, and it was like, bruh, it's lap 9. You're complaining about your tires already? My guy, what are you doing? And I feel like Oscar's gotten a lot better at managing his tires. So for it to already,
they both have. Like I think the whole
team,
both,
yeah. McLaren as a whole is like very much understood their tires. I feel like over the last year.
Yeah, compared to when we first started watching, they've really.
Yeah, that was Oscar's like biggest struggle in 2023. I think like he did not understand his tires, but I feel like that's most rookies. It's a lot to get used to.
Yeah.
McLaren tells Lando that it's looking like it's gonna be more of a plan B, whatever that means to them.
Because we don't know their plans.
Yeah, we're not privy to that information, unfortunately.
For any team.
Yeah, would be nice.
Nor are probably you who's listening.
Charles is already getting warned about track limits at like 10 laps into the race, which is crazy.
And he won't be the last person.
This was a big track limits race.
Yeah, there's always one, and I feel like it's towards the end of the season.
They get really into it at the end of the season.
Yeah. And it's like, I feel like it is the 3rd season in a row that they really get into it.
I wonder if it's just because towards the end of the season, it's not as many old tracks, and so you've got a bit more runoff area.
So I wonder if it just like, if like the drivers
they're starting to nitpick.
They're starting to nitpick, or like if the drivers are just tired.
I would be.
Yeah.
I'm tired. I just yawned.
I know.
Okay, anyways. Lap 14, Lando is 0.4 seconds behind Charles. So this is like really Lando trying.
I just yawned.
Yeah. Yawning's contagious, did you know?
All right, we're not going to continue talking about it.
Lap 15, Gabby stops. He pitted. I don't know why I wrote just Gabby stops.
Yeah, it was like...
It's a questionable word choice for me. He pitted. So he was the first person to like properly go in that wasn't just like hit.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is when Lando like is really trying to pass Charles. So Lando tries to use DRS to pass Charles into turn 1 and is unable. Charles pushes him kind of wide into turn 2, and so he can't really go on to the inside. He has to stay on the outside, and because he's going wide, he's not really able to make it past Charles. And this was the same move that Lando did probably 5 times to Charles throughout this whole race. And like I'm almost like Lando, you did this last year, these exact moves to Max last year, and it didn't work. And you actually ended up crashing in the race last year.
Yeah.
It's predictable.
I mean, they all have style. Like, I hate to say it too, because I was saying the same thing with you during the race. Like, this is what he does, but I feel like it's like...
Yeah, they all have a driving
style.
We just get frustrated with Lando's because we pay attention to his a lot.
And we want him to pass faster.
Yeah, it was just I hate when I see people stuck behind the same car forever and the camera is just focused on that battle.
Yeah.
And that battle's lasting like 15 laps. Yeah. That's where I get annoyed because I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
Take a risk.
But
you're driving like 200 miles an hour. You like high risk. Go.
Yeah.
But yeah. Then finally, lap 19, Lando tries the same move on Charles again and is unsuccessful. Lap 20, Alex is now in the DRS of Isaac, Kimmy's in DRS of Esteban, Stroll's in DRS of Gasly. So there were some fights going on the track. Lap 20, though, at this point, we do see that Max is 9.3 seconds ahead of Charles. So Max is pulling away. But also, Charles is where he is at the moment because he's currently defending from Lando. So, like, Max might not have been pulling away so much if Charles didn't have to defend.
If they weren't battling, yeah.
Lap 21, the black and white flag is shown for Lando, so track limits has been shown to Lando. And at that point, I was assuming, like, oh, well, he's going to struggle to pass him even more.
Yeah.
But then almost immediately afterwards, Lando passes Charles finally. Yeah. Charles' tires were starting to, like, really shit the bed. Lewis and Charles are now also going wheel to wheel.
It was scary.
At lap 22.
Moment. Yeah.
That was very scary.
There was definitely a moment where we all like intaked our breath at the same time because it was like, oh my God.
Yeah, last thing we need is both of them crashing.
Yeah.
Lap 23 is actually when Charles went in. I don't know why we thought it was 30. I think somebody else went. I think it was like Oscar or Lando. It was Oscar who went in at 31. Yeah. But Charles went in at 23 to go switch to mediums. And he ended up coming out 9th ahead of Alonso. So the pundits were saying, I don't know why they didn't pit him like immediately after his fight with Lando, because that might have screwed him a little bit, Charles. At first, later on, I was like, oh wait, Charles still might have second place.
Yeah.
He did not, in fact. What's next? Pierre ended up having a really slow pit stop. There was a couple of slow pit stops. So Pierre had a bad one. It looked like something was jammed on the left rear tire. Yuki had a slow stop at 4.9 seconds at lap 30. Yuki's just suffering.
Yeah.
I feel bad for the guy. Every week I say I feel bad for the guy.
I'm curious, now that I don't even think we've talked about it. We'll talk about it at the end. But now that Mercedes has announced their lineup, I'm curious to see, because basically the only Red Bull Racing Bull seat that's confirmed is Max. I'm just curious to see where Yuki ends up, you know, if he...
I could oddly see him... I don't think he'll be staying at Red Bull. I don't think he'll be getting either of the seats, to be honest, given how brutal they are. I think that the second Red Bull seat's going to go to Isaac next year, and I think that the other seat... We'll talk about this at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Where am I? Yes, Yuki had a slow stop. Oscar at lap 31, he goes in to get softs. And we both looked at each other. We're like, softs? Wasn't he just struggling with tires?
Yeah.
Interesting choice. I think it was okay for him, but I think sometimes McLaren just follows the trend of everybody else when they don't need to.
Well, and the question mark that arose because of this was like, was he faking? Was it to kind of throw people off his scent? Who knows?
Or was he just being dramatic? Because some of the drivers are quite dramatic in the middle of a race.
As I mean, in all fairness, as I probably would be too.
Yeah. I'm not saying, I'm not hating it.
Yeah.
Lap 32, Lewis goes into pit. He is a good stop. Lap 33, Lando stops. He's a little bit of a slower stop at 3.8 seconds. Not dramatically slow, but not great.
Not a mess up.
Yeah. Max was finally told to box at like lap 34-ish there. Lando comes out in 4th behind Charles. So like Charles kind of did do an undercut.
Yeah.
But it didn't really benefit for him in the end. In like the last few laps, he kind of lost it. Lap 34, George and Hulkenberg both pit. Lap 35, Ollie tries to pass Yuki and he ends up spinning. This was just like a misjudgment on Ollie's part. I don't really know why he thought he would do that. And he kind of spun on his own. Like, he didn't hit Yuki at all.
Yeah.
Like, Yuki just kind of was like, oh, I'm aborting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lap 37, Alex and Gabby are both in the pit again. Both of them ended up going in earlier, obviously. Alex went in after his, like, little crash, and then Gabby went in at, like, lap 15. They both got the black and white flag also, both Alex and Gabby, so they're being shown track limits. Alex, when he goes back out, he ends up passing Isaac for P16. Lap 39, we see Lando up Charles's ass again.
Yeah.
So the battle of Lando and Charles has
just
started again. Lando's complaining that he feels that his tires are gone by lap 41. I think it was like lap 40, Lando had tried to make a move on Charles and it didn't work. It was the same move as always. And it didn't work. Lap 41, Lando is freaking out about his tires and his race engineer, Will Joseph, was like, you just need to like stay back for a couple laps, like let things cool off and then you'll be able to make it. Like, I know the car feels like shit, but
trust it.
It is you're moving fast. And he specifically said something about the carcass temp, and they asked Jolyon to explain what that was. Because so you have like your track temp and then your carcass temp. So track temp you can control easily with just like a couple quick moves to just get the air flowing a little bit better. But the carcass temp is a rolling temp through the laps. That's what Jolyon said. So, like, you really have to lower that temp through several laps of doing certain things, of just, like, not slowing down, but, like, giving yourself space.
Not
and, like,
riding so hard on them.
Yeah, and not, like, battling.
Yeah.
These cars, like, are the best cars in the world, but they cannot battle for the whole race.
No, they're very delicate.
Yeah. They overheat easily.
Yes.
Lap 51, Lando finally tries to take second from Charles, and he actually did, but he tried, was unsuccessful, and then like halfway through that lap, he got it and was totally fine. Lando now is just walking away from Charles. So either Lando had a lot more speed than he thought, or Charles is shitting the bed.
Well,
which I think is a mixture of both.
And as per usual, the McLaren doesn't do well in dirty air, gets in clean air, flies.
Yeah. I also think that we've seen in the last couple of races with Charles and Lewis, mostly Charles, they'll be at the front, like close in the top 3, and then like the last 5 to 10 laps, their tires shit the bed.
Yeah, I agree. Because we saw it with Lewis. Well, Lewis had
an issue, but like this has happened to Charles before several times this season.
Huh. Yeah.
I don't know. Something I'm just remembering. Franco is now also told to hold positions. Gasly was P17 and Franco was P18. I don't know why they were saying you need to hold positions. And you're not getting points anyways.
I don't think Franco understood, so he decided to
He said, no,
go in front.
I'm going to pass, which was good because also Gabby Bortoleto ended up passing Pierre Gasly.
Yeah.
So they needed to make those passes. And that was really the end of the race.
Yeah. I feel like it went, with the few incidents that we did have, it went by really fast.
Yeah. I feel like there was a bunch of incidents at the beginning and then a little bit of a break and then some incidents, and then a little bit of a break. It was definitely a bit more of a like, it wasn't the least boring race of the season, to say the least. So P1 ended up being Max, P2 was Lando, P3 was Charles. I can't remember the rest of the grid from there. I think Oscar was P5 or 6.
6, I think.
Yeah. And so the championship battle has now been brought down
to about 40 points between Oscar, Lando, and Max.
Yeah, I think Oscar's ahead of Lando by like 15 or 16
14.
points. Yeah, it's not a really comfortable margin.
No.
To be honest.
So, I think things are just going to get tenser and weirder from here.
Yeah, it's going to get weird.
It's going to get weird.
It's going to get really awkward.
And,
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get into our final thoughts. Okay, back to the Red Bull seats. I think that it's going to be obviously Max in Red Bull, and I think Isaac is going to be the other Red Bull seat, and then I think they're going to keep Liam on Racing Bulls, and then I think that they will put Arvin Lindblad as the other Racing Bulls, and I think that they're going to drop Yuki.
Yeah. I don't know.
Even though I do think that if Yuki had stayed on Racing Bulls for this season, I think that he would have done fantastic.
One can dream that he'll stay.
I think it sucks watching him on a team like this.
Yeah. But
I wish he was on a team like Williams where they like actually nurture, or Williams or Mercedes. I could see Toto taking him as a reserve.
Oh yeah.
Because Valtteri will be gone.
True.
And I think Mercedes has done that in the past with other drivers that like they don't have a seat, but they're still young and they're a good driver. They just haven't like had the opportunity to really show that because of their shit cars.
Yeah.
I could see Toto taking in Yuki.
Yeah, that'd be crazy. Well, we haven't really talked about it yet. The Mercedes seats, right?
Yeah, go for it.
So it was confirmed right before the weekend. Literally, as everyone was talking about how they couldn't understand what Mercedes was doing. Because Mercedes, up until, like, Tuesday, had not made a decision on who would be their 2026 lineup. And it was announced that they were extending George and Kimi for 2026. And I think there's, like, options for extensions, like, as per usual. But when George was kind of asked about it, he very much alluded to the fact that it was less about, like, money and more kind of stamping out, their day-to-day, and
which makes sense.
It makes sense because I think a lot of podcasts have been discussing it recently, but I think that there is a lot of moments where we don't realize how much time, especially because we're only receiving mostly American media, where you have to realize that these guys are doing interviews internationally around the globe. So,
and they have so many sponsorship responsibilities
as well. And so I think George is starting to get to a point in his career with the success that he's having where he wants to be having to do less of what like the rookies have to do. So, yeah, happy to see them continue with Mercedes. Excited.
I think that if they had, so earlier in the season, a lot of people's thought process was the reason why they were taking so long is because Max Verstappen might be on the market.
Or Toto was waiting for confirmation that, like, he can't snatch Max.
I don't think that Max would ever go to Mercedes. And as much as Toto wanted him at the beginning, like when Max was a kid, I don't think that they would work well together now. And I think Toto's smart enough to understand that.
Yeah, I also think it's a very small world where you don't have a lot of people that live the same lifestyle as you, and I'm sure where you vacation is similar to where other people, that was the whole thing, was Max and Toto were in the same marina or whatever.
I think they were on a boat together, but also, like, if I happen to be in the same place as somebody that, like, I know,
a colleague,
I'll be like, hey, let's go get a drink. Like, I'm glad that they kept George. I think that he's been doing a really great job this year for Mercedes. And even last year, I mean, he was better than Lewis last year.
Yeah.
And so I think that he's doing a really great job, and I think that if they had decided to drop him, it would have been a really gross decision.
Yeah, I think it would have put a lot of question marks around, like, what is what is your plan? Like, what's your long-term plan with some of these drivers?
Well, their long-term plan is Kimi. Like, they really,
Yeah.
truly believe that Kimi is going to be the next Max Verstappen, which I really do hope for their sake that he is. But I was nervous that they were going to find somehow, like, some way they were going to get Max and drop George and keep Kimi. And because there's, like, even though George has been outperforming Kimi, they're seeing it more in the long term for Kimi. Like, if he is going to be the next Max Verstappen, like, why would you drop him?
Yeah.
And it also would have been, like, again, gross if they had dropped him after this year because y'all pulled him up early.
Yeah.
So you need to stand by him.
Stand by your decisions. We've talked about it a lot where it's frustrating when and it was a common theme amongst Red Bull, where you're the ones making the decisions, you're the ones signing the drivers, you're the number one team, like, have confidence in the decision. Because if you provide confidence to the drivers that you've chosen, hopefully that would only boost their confidence in turn. But, just basic, I feel like, psychology. But I feel like some of the older people in the paddock need to get with the times. But I digress.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah, so I think we have, 5 more races left?
Yep.
We are, like we said, getting closer and closer to drama and
It's going to be so Oscar's like 14 points ahead of Oscar, and then Oscar's 14 points ahead of Lando. And then Lando's 30 points ahead of Max. Again, like we said at the beginning of this episode, at the beginning of the weekend, I was thinking Max, it's a long shot. Now, no. I think if the McLarens fuck up again over the next couple of races, Max has a true shot of winning the title again. And I think that would be extremely embarrassing for McLaren.
Yeah, it would.
To fumble it so hard that you lose that,
it would be, seared into the history of this sport.
I don't think either driver would ever forgive the team.
No, it would definitely be interesting to see the recovery and what next year would bring if, a fumble like this happens, but hopefully it doesn't.
Yeah, but also if it's going to be anybody who does it, it's going to be Max Verstappen.
Yeah, and, kudos to him if he's able to do it 5 years in a row.
Yeah.
And to do it with how badly the beginning of the season was in Red Bull perspective.
Well, and what's crazy, because of all the McLaren stuff on the news, nobody talks about the Red Bull stuff anymore.
Yeah. Not until early next year.
Yeah. But there wasn't really a lot of questions about the lawsuit.
Mm-mm.
I wonder if McLaren, their PR person was like, you can't be asking questions about it.
Well, I also wonder, too, if,
legally,
F1,
I don't think that you can.
Or if F1 just didn't want attention brought to it, especially with the relationship between F1 and IndyCar. I wonder if they themselves kind of put
or it would be the FIA.
FIA, yeah.
Being like, you can't ask questions related to it.
Especially while it's going on.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Who knows? Or maybe reporters know that they can't really say anything while the case is in the middle of
Or
hearings.
If they did, it got shut down fast and everyone was kind of like, oh, that's about
Yeah, because I was expecting some small questions to Lando or Oscar. I feel like the main thing that we heard about this weekend was repercussions for Lando.
Yeah, so there's apparently McLaren has given Lando repercussions for what happened last weekend or last race. Lando, and I didn't fact check it, it was a quick headline, so I don't know if it was clickbait, was apparently stated saying that it was something that would affect him for the rest of the season. No one's really sure what it is. Honestly, at this point, I feel like it's just, I'm waiting for a tell-all book in 10 years to come out that these were just PR nuggets to get the people talking about McLaren, papaya rules. There actually are no papaya rules, but actually Zach Brown did comment this weekend that he confirmed it's no contact. But with the repercussions, I'm just I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know.
I think it's weird.
It's giving high school. But I also understand there's a safety measure but I also, it was a racing incident. Everyone agreed. I don't know.
What are there going to be repercussions this weekend for Oscar as well?
Yeah,
I know last weekend I was very much like I can't believe Lando crashed into Oscar, but like I think we also agreed last race that it was a racing incident, that like it's a lap 1 racing incident, it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's just giving like weird energy, and
I think it needs to end. The season and the behavior from McLaren just needs to end.
Yeah, it just feels like less colleagues and more like their children.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
That's
weird.
the way like the whole thing is kind of looking at me, but I don't like that. So.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Anything else?
No.
Yeah, I think that's really it for the weekend.
I'm excited for the next leg of the season.
Is it next weekend?
Definitely the biggest energy. I feel like the next 2 weekends are just insane. And I look forward to it.
I think it is next October 24th through the 26th. Yeah, it's next weekend.
Next weekend.
So we've got a lot going on.
Yep.
All right. Well, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.